Welcome back to What Fuels You. As part of our summer series of condensed episodes, today you'll hear segments from Shauna's 2019 interview with Dan Levitan, the co-founder of the venture capital firm Maveron. Dan started the firm with Howard Schultz in 1998 after helping the Starbucks team accomplish its IPO. Under Dan's guidance, Maveron focused on, quote, creating a cauldron of consumer passion, end quote, by forming partnerships with non-normal entrepreneurs. These partnerships have included brands like Allbirds, eBay, Lovevery, and Zulily. To learn more about Maveron and the team behind their consumer-focused culture, visit maveron.com. In this recap episode, Dan explains the importance of investing in consumers and relationships, the significance of seeing the opportunity, how to elevate your aspirations, and the inspiration he draws from his time at Duke University and what he's learned from their legendary basketball coach, Mike Krzyzewski. Thanks for listening.
One of the many lessons I've learned over time is it doesn't matter where you went to school. In fact, I tell Harvard graduates now, you have to work harder because people have this image of if you're a Harvard MBA.
Yeah.
And so I just think Duke's a younger school. The current Duke was really created in the 1920s. Mm-hmm. And it challenges itself to get better in everything it does. You know, I think you don't really think about the lifelong connectivity to your schools. Mm-hmm. You think about a 4-year experience or in business school, a 2-year experience. What I try to encourage people to think about is if you really are privileged enough to be at a great place, that has a long-term impact on your friendships and getting back there on some basis. And hopefully the pursuits of that school are of interest to you. We met in 91, company went public in 92, and he started sending me around the country in 92, 93, 94, first for Starbucks and then for opportunities that he had seen. And then in 94, he said, why don't you come out and be the CFO of Starbucks? And I would have been a terrible CFO. To be the CFO of a public company, you got to be kind of very detailed and anal. And
you're more of a visionary than an operator, it seems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the then CFO was becoming the president, a guy named Orrin Smith. May Orrin rest in peace. Wonderful man. Orrin miraculously convinced both Howard and I in an incredibly tactful way that was a dumb idea. And Howard always kept saying, you know, let's go into business together. And I never really opened myself up to that possibility. One of the things I'd say to your listeners is we put blinders on ourselves early in our career and mid-career. And when opportunities are presented to yourself, you got to have the peripheral vision to really think about it. And I didn't. And I stayed in my narrow tunnel vision investment banking.
Well, you were kicking ass as an investment banker. Probably miserable, but like doing great.
And it wasn't until I quit investment banking and took the summer off, but was working on a deal. And that deal fell through. And I remember it vividly. It was August 31st, 1997. And I just kind of, I put the phone down hearing I lost this deal I was chasing as a principal. And I had this epiphany, I'm moving to Seattle. And I went home that night. My house was in Connecticut. I slept on it. And I called Howard the next day and I said, I'm coming. And he said, great. And he was totally surprised. So that was September 1st of 97. I moved in December of 97. And Howard lent me a house he had bought that he wasn't using. So I was in this empty house, and it was pouring rain for like weeks when I first got
Welcome to Seattle.
Welcome to Seattle. And then I met him at Starbucks on the first workday of 1998. And he gave me a black Yankees cap and a umbrella. And he said, welcome to Seattle. And I said, okay, Howard, what do you think we should do? And he said, you're the one who moved here. Figure it out. And he said, you know, what are you going to pay yourself? And I said, I'm not going to pay myself anything. We don't have a business. And he insisted on getting me to pay myself. and he put a bunch of money in a bank account, and he said, pay me back whenever we figure out what we're going to do. And that's how our partnership started. And that kind of unconditional support and that commitment to me is something I've never forgotten. And so the two lessons I take from it, first is be aware of opportunities that you might not be thinking of. Part of coming out here was a bet on Howard and a bet that Starbucks would be what it became. And then the other thing is work with people who you really love, who you trust, who make you better, and who have a sense of values that are aligned with yours. Either you're adding to a team or you're detracting. And I think everyone knows who's adding.
Yeah.
And one of the many things that Coach K asked me, he and I had a one-on-one in 2000, and we were together for a while. And one of the things he said is, so do you love your team, Dan? And at the time, I was not focused on that question at all.
You were externally focused.
I was externally focused, and I thought that VCs didn't love their team. And I thought that didn't matter. And I learned that he understood me, and he understood our business more than I expected. And I think that's great. I think that's a key for any great team, that individuals can accomplish only so much. And in our business, there's a lot of teamwork and collaboration that I think makes us better. Being a consumer-facing business, many of the companies that we invest in, the majority of the customers are female. And so we have had a female partner since 2000, and actually kind of a surprise to us, in 2018, 68% of the investments that we made were at least one female founder. I think we're on the cusp of many companies very different than the past, being led by women that are going to be successful and unicorns and things like that. It just turned out to be that way. Yeah. We weren't intentional to go back female entrepreneurs. We wanted to back the best entrepreneurs we could back.
Also, your investment team, that they understand probably the mindset of women too, that they are women, helps.
We haven't hired a male on the investment team in years. But frankly, it's just a function of finding the people that we think are the best investors and the best team members. When something like eBay goes from, no one knew it, to everyone's talking about it, or Allbirds, or Zulily, I mean, these are like incredible rides. And getting back to my dad, he was kind of the partner, the consigliere to his clients. And I stumbled into a profession that has, I think, a far better business model than law, in that our product is money. But in reality, what we're trying to do is be a impactful service organization to the entrepreneurs we back. And, one of our other values we came up with is ships over actions, relationships over transactions, and try to hold ourselves accountable to recognizing that it's really the entrepreneurs that create all the value. And we want to nurture those relationships and provide whatever it is we can. Each relationship is different. The Allbirds guys are first-time CEOs. They're younger. Mark and Daryl Cavins were around the block and had scaled Blue Nile. So we have to be different for them than if you're in your mid to late 30s and you're a first-time entrepreneur. That's very different than if you're 24 and a first-time entrepreneur. And so I think the key for us is trying to be malleable and giving the entrepreneur and the board everything we can in terms of resources, help, advice to help them scale. Every single person that I know that's been successful over long periods of time absolutely faced the precipice. For me, it was 2009 when everyone said, oh my God, you shouldn't be investing in consumer businesses. And we shrunk the size of our fund. We changed our strategy, went earlier, and we tried to say, what could we do as well or better than anyone? And we got much more humble. We got much more focused, and we clearly asked ourselves, how can we differentiate ourselves? Being a great venture investor is hard.
Yeah.
And just because you're a good operator or just because you're a good this or that doesn't necessarily mean you have the combination of skills to both be a great sourcer, a great picker, and a great partner. And it's challenging to build and nurture a partnership that's highly functional. I've started asking teenagers and 20-somethings, capitalism or socialism? And a surprising amount of people say socialism. And they feel that, particularly since 2008, capitalism excesses have let them down. And I think what I learned from Starbucks, and one of the themes for our investments, is finding businesses that have profit plus purpose, and finding incredibly engaged employee bases. And if you get the right psychological contract between the company and its employees, then the brand, which is built from the inside out, is built by the employees. And I think powerful things can happen. The older I've gotten and the more I've done this, the more I've learned to listen to my partners and appreciate their perspectives. We rarely have everyone saying, let's do this, and there's nothing to worry about. We frequently have a split, and we frequently have things that we observe in others' deals that are watch-outs. And so the way our partnership works is we surface everything, we seek out everyone weighing in, and hopefully each person that's leading an investment has a plan on what we see as the weakness or the vulnerability and how are we going to help the entrepreneur manage that. But ultimately, it does come down to a gut. And in reality, I think about three broad things. First, the people, and particularly the founders. Second, the size of the prize.
Of the addressable market.
Of the addressable market, and if it works.
Yeah.
It's easy when you start in VC to ask what could go wrong. What we've learned is we need to ask what can go right. And if what can go right can deliver a big enough return. And then the last thing is it an enduring product, a differentiated product, something that we think can separate itself from the competition? You asked me how I'm different. I don't react to the highs and the lows as much as I used to. It can be a roller coaster, both in terms of the individual company ride, but more importantly, or equally importantly, the macro environment. I mean, in 99, 98, we were brilliant investing in consumer businesses. In 2001, 2002, everyone thought we were dumb.
Yeah.
In 2007, we were back brilliant. And then in
2009, it's like,
some of the institutional endowments and foundations that we had, and they said, there's no good investments here.
Yeah.
Why don't you, stop investing? And actually, when everyone else is fearful, is the greatest time to invest. And if you look at that 2009 class of companies, we had Zulily, Uber. I mean, these great companies were created then. I got a great lesson in 2002. One of our first funds, and a guy named Sam Zell.
I know Sam Zell from Chicago.
Correct.
Yeah.
He was an investor, and the fund wasn't doing well because 2000 and 2001 came around, and I went to see Sam in Chicago, and I'm all nervous and I'm uptight, and I've got this presentation, and Mr. Zell called me Sam. Okay, Sam, do you want me to take you through this deck? And I was really nervous, and he said, close the deck. I don't want to look at any deck. He said, I have one question for you, and that one question only. Are you having fun? And
I love him.
And I said, no. Basically, I mean, I didn't say that, and he said, I don't want to invest in you if you're not having fun. And I thought that was a really insightful answer or question, because what he was really saying is, are we having fun, and do the entrepreneurs that we back feel like we're having fun, and do they want to hang with us? And I think if you're uptight and in fear mode, you're not making good decisions. And I think one of the great challenges for a VC is to disconnect from the incredible success or the incredible failure of a particular investment and bring the best you have to the next investment or the next board meeting. And don't sit and help an entrepreneur with the lens of the problem of someone else or the incredible success of someone else, but bring what they need and be positive, but not be mirrored in defensiveness. Mm-hmm. And it's been easier in these macro times that go up to do that. The real challenge is when, instead of being surprised on the upside, 3 out of 4 surprises are on the downside. That's 2001, 2002, that's 09, 10, 11.
Probably 20, 21.
Well, at some point, we have a joke in my firm that I'm a believer in cycles, and I've lived them. But many people in the venture business now have not experienced this cycle. I think part of being a VC is being a connector.
Right. But do you have to work at that?
I think that it's a natural thing for me, but challenging myself, my team challenged me to raise the bar in who I was connecting with. Mm. And they basically, in the last year, said, you can do better.
Meaning like you were being too open to kind of the casual coffee with?
No, upping the bar of who
you reach out to.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you could pretty much reach out to anybody right now.
For most people, you get in life what you think you're entitled to.
Yeah.
And in a thoughtful way, being comfortable with yourself and raising your aspirations and getting comfortable with rejection is super powerful as you network. And it's not just a top-down thing. It's we're all in this together, and, what can you contribute and how do you do better? And I think life is a process, both your personal life and your business life. And whether or not it's Coach K or some of my other mentors, Howard Schultz, a guy named Joel Peterson, who's chairman of the board of JetBlue, or
and the Intuit CEO also.
Former CEO Bill Campbell just passed away. Yeah. But each of those people kind of got stronger in their 60s. They just got better.
Yeah.
And they live this get better every day.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. If you'd like to check out past episodes to hear from more business leaders, go to fueltalent.com/podcast. And if you have a minute, please leave a review and rating on your favorite podcast app, or share this episode with a friend or colleague. Please share any feedback or interview suggestions for other guests by sending a message to podcast@fueltalent.com. I'm Shauna Swerland, and thanks again for listening.